Alrighty, everybody. Good morning. We got a special guest here today. We got my boy Brandon. Brandon, how we doing?
It's going well. Good morning. Everything's going good today.
Awesome, Brandon. I'm super excited to have you on as a guest. This podcast is Best Self Weekly, where we simply just focus on being our best selves and what it takes, at our age, at a younger age, to be our best selves. So we talk about mindset, self-improvement, spirituality, faith, health, fitness, you name it. And I got my boy Brandon on, and I'm so excited for this conversation. I was telling him I always prepare to have conversations with other individuals. And I've definitely prepared to have this with Brandon, but I just felt like I didn't need to prepare because we've had a lot of good conversations and we totally vibe with each other, man. And I'm just so
Definitely.
excited.
No, it's an honor to at least, be on, and I'm super happy to help you most definitely. And this is honestly, it's a great thing. I look at it more of a as a path to, honestly just give myself a little self reminder as well to keep myself in check to make sure that things are on the right path and everything is going good. But it's always great to catch up too. And there's so much that can entail in a podcast like this. It's so much you can talk about the range, like you said, all the way from health and fitness, all the way to faith and spirituality. And it's a blessing to be able to do so. And like how grateful I am, let alone to just have like even the technology to do this is like awesome. So let's
Right.
dive in. Let's do it, bro.
Let's do it. And I just want to be led just like you. And who knows, we might talk about faith and Jesus the whole time, or we might talk about self-improvement or the Dolphins, like working.
Most
What
definitely.
But just to start off, to give a little intro to Brandon, Brandon, he's 23 years old. He's currently working in the hospitality field at the Durango Casino, graduated from UNLV. He's a mentor at his church for the youth.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's so fitting, bro. I feel like you're killing it with that. And yeah, dude. And he has a girlfriend. We
Yeah,
want to talk about relationships and kind of
most
just what
definitely.
it takes to be a great boyfriend, a great partner, So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this, Brandon, and just how we met. We went to middle school with each other and high
Mhm.
school. So we met when we were probably 12 years old.
Yeah. Crazy.
Basketball intramurals, we were just talking about that. And then we played on the same football team freshman
Mhm.
year at Palo Verde. And did we play another year with each other or did we just play freshman? I don't even remember.
I think it stopped after freshman year. I did 1 year and then I was like, I think I'm gonna go get a job. I think
Yeah.
that's how that route went. But funny, it's just crazy how far back it dates back to because here we are now, it's almost 2025. And those years, I mean, that's like what? Almost prime 2010 era. Like that's 2013, 2014. Like that's almost over 10 years ago. Like that's so crazy to think about.
Yeah, and I want to start off, Brandon, talking about how these are the most precious years of our life. In my
Yeah.
opinion, that's anywhere from our 20 to 25. And I know probably age 12 to 25 is kind of, they say there's so many people, like there's your teenage years, but then there's your young adult years and there's your like first adult years. But
Mhm.
to me, 20 to 25 in those 20s are some of the real most important, like where you build a lot of life skills. And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you because something I noticed in my life, I'm reading these self-improvement books, and it just so happens to be my top three books. They all start off with them at age 24 and how they made a transformation at
Wow.
age 24. And we're
Mhm.
talking David Goggins, we're talking
Yeah.
Lewis Holmes, and we're talking one more person I can't remember right now. But anyway, it happens to be 24. So I wanted to start off, Brendan, asking you, in these crucial years of our life, what is necessary to do to become the best versions of ourselves and set ourselves up on a path for success?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I love that. And I love that it's actually really funny that everybody's 24. I'll be 24 myself this Sunday, which is actually crazy coming up. But no, like you said though, in general, the 20s, this is definitely where I feel like the foundation of where you're going to be or the path you're going to take is definitely going to start to blossom. And I think that uh within the last couple years, I've made some moves in my life to where I kind of have set myself up to be in the position I'm in. And I've always told myself, I feel like one move leads to the other. And I've used my dad's mindset of you got to go into everything with a positive mentality. You have to look at it from a positive attitude. Your attitude determines so much in your life. And I think that, based on my faith with having a good attitude and just being so, blessed by the Lord and what he's going to do for me in my life means so much to me. And I think that that carries me through daily. And, every morning I try to say my prayer on the way to work or on the way to school or whatever I was doing, and just reminding him how great he is and letting him kind of just guide my path. And I knew that that was my core value at my heart of it all. But um, basically, where the whole thing roots of how I got into what I'm doing is I was graduated Palo Verde and I didn't really know what I was going to do, and kind of had, mixed emotions about where my path was going to go. And I knew that Las Vegas was just a great market of hospitality, and had a great, you know, classes that were to be taken at UNLV was a really good school for hospitality. And so I was really struggling to find my purpose in life, but I knew that hospitality was great, but I didn't have like a so calling to it. And then I was doing really well with my youth group at the time. And it took one of the members in our congregation at church to come up to me and tell me, you're just so hospitable in the way that you present yourself with the youth kids that you mentor, and the way that you just welcome everybody in. Like, it's so fun to be around you, and I feel so welcomed when I'm with you. And just hearing that now is like really cool, because it almost gives me motivation to keep going. But it was such a blessing to hear that from her, because she had told me that, and it just was like, wow, like that was almost like, okay, let's go jump into this hospitality field and let's go see what it's all about. And from there, just kind of hit the ground running. And I had an amazing teacher in my freshman year of college, and I kind of got the college years were kind of weird because 2 of the years were taken away from COVID. And
Right.
so it was kind of a weird process with that, being at home on the laptop. But so thankful I caught this one teacher before he retired, before COVID had hit. His name was Carl Bronlick, and he was amazing. And he taught us the meaning behind hospitality and what it meant to welcome someone in, and what it meant to welcome somebody into a hotel or restaurant, or any, broad aspect of hospitality, whatever it falls under the umbrella of. But it was really good. And I learned a lot from him, and from his tutelage, and from my church and everything, it kind of just meshed really well. And I kind of found my purpose. I kind of knew that I was put on this earth in my eyes to, you know, try to bring as many people to the Lord's kingdom as much as possible. And that was my number one thing. And by doing so, it was just being hospitable, and how great it was to jump into the hospitality field. And now everything seems like it's set up really well for me to continue on this route, continue on this path. And I'm just going to continue to keep doing so.
I love that. I love that. And let me ask you this. To you, what does it mean to have hospitality? Like you said, it's taking people in. Like what does it mean simply to have
Yeah, no,
hospitality?
no, of course, I think the best way to be hospitable is you want to be welcoming. I think that is like the biggest word that you can tie together with hospitality, is you don't just want to be welcoming in a fake way, because I feel like in the hotel industry, at least, it's so easy to be fake. It's so easy to try to upsell people on rooms that are worth a bajillion dollars. But it's so great to welcome people in and say, I want you to come see this hotel. I want you to come see Las Vegas. I'm so passionate about my city and like where I was born. And I was born and raised in Las Vegas. And so I love welcoming people that have never seen this town before, because I work at a hotel that is located off the strip. And
Yeah.
so when people come to the Durango Hotel, it's so great, because it's like you're not only seeing the hotel that you're in, but you're seeing the city itself. Like, the community of Las Vegas itself is a beautiful thing. And like, we're so powerful. And I don't think it gets much represented that well, because people just look at Vegas for the strip. And it's so, hospitality is so much bigger than the strip. Definitely the heart of it. I would have to give the strip the credit for that. The Las Vegas strip runs so much and generates so much. And I have to give its credit to where it's due, most definitely. But there's so many other branches off of that, and one of the branches is me at the Durango Hotel. And it's beyond a blessing to just welcome people in and say, I'm really glad you get to come see this city. And I always tell people there's so many other things to do, like to branch out. Like, there's so many other avenues to do here in this city besides going down to the strip, or some things that might be included at the strip. It's just hospitality is such a nice way to welcome somebody in and let them see your city for what it really is.
And dude, that's amazing. I love that. And when you first told me you were working at the Durango Casino, I was like, I didn't really know what that meant.
Hmm.
But now I can see how it ties into your purpose and it's a deeper meaning.
Hmm.
You're telling me these things, and really what you do is you can help people have an amazing experience. Like you can be the difference of giving someone an amazing experience versus a terrible experience.
Most
It's,
definitely.
and I wanted to ask you, Brandon, because what does it take? What does it take to be, because host, like when you say, hey, I'm going to host someone, that's
Hmm.
basically short for hospitality, right?
Most definitely, yeah.
Okay. So, what does it take to be a good host, to give someone a good example? And because what comes to mind is um, number one, the way we speak, the way we
Hmm.
talk to people, giving
Yeah.
someone compliments, being positive. And another thing is our physical appearance. And it's no doubt, Brandon, that you're in the hospitality industry because, you have your hair combed, you
Thank
have
you.
two nice shirts on with buttons, you have a fresh shave,
Mhm.
and is it your off day today? Are you working today?
Yeah, I'm actually working later on this afternoon. Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. But
but
still,
still, yeah, yeah,
so you said to run errands this
most
week.
definitely. Yeah, that's the one nice part about working later on in the afternoon. You get to do a lot more stuff in the morning, so it's good.
Yeah, dude, but so what else does it take to be a good host, to have hospitality? Like would
Yeah.
you say?
So I definitely think the word that comes to mind is accommodating, and you
Mhm.
want to be friendly, you want to be accommodating, but you want to make sure that people are taken care of. You want to make sure that they're there and enjoying their stay. That if something is wrong, you ask them and say, it's so great being at the front desk because you see a lot of the people that walk by. They'll go up to their room, they'll check in, they'll leave their bags, and then they're going to come back down to either go play in the casino or go have a nice meal or genuinely just go walk around and see what the casino entails. And
Mhm.
so it's nice to see them as they walk by the front desk and ask, was everything okay with your stay? Is everything going well? Is there anything that we can do to improve your stay? Things of that nature, automatically, that's the easy answer for this question. I think the part that a lot of people don't get in the hospitality field is you need to be yourself. And I think a lot of people are trying to be somebody they're not. And I think they're at the front desk, especially, when somebody walks in, a lot of people try to take advantage of guests by either upselling a room to them or trying to have them pay way too much for things that they genuinely don't need. I think the whatever they're purchasing prior to them arriving is a great thing. And if a guest is looking for a better room, for example, like upgrading to a suite or looking for a better stay to add on things, I feel like they would let us know. But for me to try to go out of my way and try to charge another arm and a leg for them to stay, it just doesn't feel right in myself. I definitely most want to let them, I want to see where they're at. I want to see what they're gauging. I want to see what the mindset is. But right away, my number one thing I always do is when I check people in, I have to ask for their ID. And so when you see where their ID is from, it's normally a lot of times it's an out-of-state guest. And so you see somebody that's from Hawaii or you see somebody that's from California. Those are like our two biggest states, by the way, here in Las Vegas. But
Oh
you
wow.
get those two states, you get people that are from all the way from across the country from New York. So it's like you want to ask them, like, hey, what brings you in tonight? Like, why are you here? While you're checking them in. So you're typing in their stuff. You need to collect their info, but they don't want to just stand there and look at you. You want to connect with the guest. You want to have a genuine relationship to when they walk by the desk, they say, hey, Brandon, have a good night, or hope you're doing well, where they want to say, they want to communicate, they want to engage in a conversation. So
Right.
you got to be yourself. You can't be fake in this industry because most people know when you're being fake and you don't get good reviews. You get, just, I feel like it's just so negative when you're like that. The positivity flows from within and it has to be so genuine when you're talking to somebody. You can't be fake. You have to be yourself. And I think I've been at the Durango Hotel for a year now. We actually just passed 1 year on December 5th. And
Already.
so I know it's crazy to think about. It's been 1 year. And so it's within that year, I've already seen a lot of that. And I'm not trying to say that there's anybody I know that does that, but it's just a lesson that I've taught myself. I know I had the opportunity to, upsell these guests and try to get them suites and stuff. And most definitely there are opportunities where that presents itself. But right now, it's better to just build the foundation within myself of being who I am and just trying to grow off that.
No, yeah, for sure. And the cool thing about what you do is if if you if someone, if a client, if anyone feels criticized, if they feel judged or condemned, you lose their business and they will never come back and only talk bad about you.
Yeah.
I feel like we've all had a bad waiter. We've all had a bad experience with someone working with us. But, you need a lot of people skills with what you do because
Yeah.
everybody wants to feel important. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to talk about themselves. And as you
Yeah.
know, just those simple questions of getting people to talk about themselves can make someone feel like a
Mhm.
million bucks, like
Truly.
100%. Like everyone wants
Yeah.
to talk about themselves I wanted to ask you, Brandon, you know, in relation to God to this.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So, I feel like personally when I'm in a good mood, right? I love to just like chat it up with people. Hey, how you doing? Just
Yeah.
naturally, like tell me about this. I just like to ask a lot of questions, but when you need the strength, when you're working the overnight shift,
Mhm.
and it's 3 a.m., you've been working a couple hours already, you're tired,
Yeah.
you don't have enough sleep. Tell me how God prepares you and helps you and inspires you to be the best when you're dealing with other people. Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
No, this is definitely, a lot of it is based on everything I've said so far is is great and everything, but none of that happens without Jesus. And I know that that's the biggest thing in my life. And I think that is definitely the secret sauce that people want to know why you're such a nice person or why I get good reviews back on my check-ins and stuff of that nature. And it definitely starts with my faith, just being so involved in the Lord and knowing his word and knowing his plans for me in my life. And it really is a blessing to be able to do what I do. And it's a blessing to be talking to you right now. There's everything that we do on this earth, all roots from him. And I'm super blessed to even have any sort of relationship with that. I base my days off at the hotel are Wednesday and Thursday. I base those days off on my youth group being Wednesday nights so I can still go and mentor kids and teach a lot of these middle schoolers and high schoolers more lessons on things that I experienced during middle school or high school and try to just teach them more of the better route to incorporate Jesus into their life at a younger age. Because how many things I missed out on in middle school and high school because I wasn't involved with the Lord hurt me so much. Looking back on that now is so challenging. And I want to be the reason why kids turn to Jesus now. And that's such a great thing that I love that I'm involved in. And that means so much to me. But incorporating that into the hospitality industry is so great because, I work in a casino, I work in the hotel, I work in a place that most people would say is just full of sin. And it's sad that that is the stigma around it because most definitely it can be so super addicting to gamble. It could be super addicting to drink alcohol. It could be super addicting to smoke, whatever you may want to smoke. But the whole point being is in this field, there's so many opportunities for light. There's so many opportunities to let Jesus break through. And I've had so many encounters with people that just check in to where they can see the light of Jesus shining through me. And that means the world to me because I love being able to explain my faith to somebody that asks about it at the front desk. I'm not one to go out of my way and tell them, but it always ends up happening to come up with guests that check in. And that is when I'm really just I can have a line of people waiting, but I love to just pull that one guest aside to talk to them and say, I'm a youth leader on Wednesday nights and this is what I do, just to let them know because that to them, they want to hear that. That's about me. But normally the convo will come up because something that they triggered it to come up. So we'll start talking and before I realize I'm going to get in trouble if I don't check in these other guests, it's just something that I love to do. So there's opportunities in itself. And I think a quick little story that I have just happened recently, a couple weeks ago. I had a gentleman that I've been checking in from Hawaii, and he's an amazing guy. I've checked him in twice now. And when him and his wife came back the second time, I didn't recognize them right away. So I felt kind of bad that they were like, "Do you remember us?" And I said, "I'm sorry. I see a lot of people every day, but not off the top of my head." And they said, "We checked in about 2, 3 months ago and we came back because we love talking to you." And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, now I feel even worse because I don't remember who you are." And they said, "No, no, we understand." And they said, "We always stay at the Red Rock Hotel, but this time we changed up to come to the Durango because we had a great experience from your hospitality last time." And that meant the world to me. We ended up talking and then realized that we had a lot of connections together at my church of people that they knew. My
Mhm.
church is a lot of the teachers that are at my church. There's my church is also a school, and so during the week there's there's teachers that are all the way from pre-K to eighth grade, and a lot of the teachers at my school at Cornerstone are from Hawaii. They're from the Hawaiian descent, and so they actually knew a lot of people that worked at Cornerstone when we ended up talking, and it was crazy because what a small world it really is. From them to be all the way from Hawaii to know people that I know here at my church was honestly really cool. And
Mhm.
a couple weeks go by and I talked to them and they ended up leaving, whatever. A couple weeks go by after they left. And I guess he had won a jackpot in the casino and he had tithed back like $1,500 back to my church and got
Wow.
the address and
No
everything. And
way.
I was like, what a blessing that was to even just because he knew that I was a youth leader just from us talking and everything. And what a way for him to bless my church like that. And he tithed to a church that Cornerstone is affiliated with too, and then tithed back home to his church. So he ended up giving three separate checks based off of the money he won in the casino, which
Yeah.
was just a crazy moment to shine through. So I get moments like that all the time. And it's honestly, that's what keeps me going because it's like, I love hearing those.
No, yeah. And that's so interesting, because I feel like as humans, we can attract whatever we want to attract, and our minds are
Hmm.
very powerful. And sometimes, like you said, you kind of have to be willing to go out of your way, but you have to just kind of, energetically have it come to you, like be aware of it. So when that situation occurs, you know, you can be on top of it. Like if you have a guest and they just so happen to, be asking questions and be willing to talk energetically, if you're on
Yeah.
that wavelength, you're going to seize that opportunity to either talk about God, to talk about their life, to give them a good experience. And that's amazing that those people came, they didn't go to Red Rock, they came back to you just
Right.
because you were just being a good host and you were being yourself. You weren't being fake. You weren't, something I catch myself doing is when I talk to strangers, sometimes accidentally I'll talk in a different tone of voice. I'll talk high. And I'm like, and I've gotten a lot better at it, but I'm like, why am I talking like this? Like,
Yeah.
why am I being fake? Just be genuine.
Yeah.
And something I put into practice is just being myself, like you said. And I wanted to also share an experience that I had. I was at the store and, I was happened to go there right after church dressed up and, this guy came up to me and complimented me on my shoes. And I was like, I wear these things to church. I love them. And he's like, hey, I'm looking to find a new community of like-minded, faith-driven people, maybe join a new church. I just need to, I just moved here from Seattle. And then anyway, we at the store at freaking Whole Foods, we have a 15-minute conversation. I get his number, we text. He might come to the Christmas program. Like
So
what I'm
great.
what I'm saying is you have to be aware
Hmm.
and you can't, I don't know, you just energetically have to be on that wavelength.
Yes.
You can't try too hard. You just have to, just be
Yeah.
aware. And when those opportunities come, like that's when you just naturally be yourself and
No,
see,
yeah.
you know?
It's such
So,
a stories like that, dude. I mean, they get me going all the time, and you have so many opportunities in a field like hospitality. So I'm blessed to be a part of that.
yeah. And I also wanted to talk to you about being a youth leader, a youth leader, a mentor, because you said earlier, you said something about how many things that you missed out on at one point in
Mhm.
your life when you were
Yeah.
younger. And we know one of the reasons why I'm in the self-improvement mindset industry, helping others with their mental health, is because personally, I before Rogage, I grew up going to really nice private schools.
Mhm.
I grew up in a church with a lot of successful people. I've had wonderful, successful parents. I've had some of the best coaches, and I still feel the same as you. I still feel like I missed out on a lot of things, a lot of simple mindset skills that if I would have truly learned, let's say when I was 12 years old, whatever, what success meant to me, what it looked like, what I had to overcome, I feel like I would have been on a path to success and
Yeah.
just like times 10 results. And I know everything
Yeah.
happens for a reason. And I'm very grateful for all the wonderful coaches, teachers, and stuff that I've had. But like something I'm very frustrated, Brandon, is in school, why I was never taught self-improvement principles, even though I was at nice private schools. I was never taught these real life skills. And I just wanted to ask you about being a mentor, and because really with this youth you're working with, it's a responsibility. Like you are changing the lives of other people. I believe that if we can just have one person who believes in us, like that one person changes the trajectory of our life. So what is it like for you to be in that position? You said twice a week with opportunities with younger people, that you're that role model and that example to them. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, dude, being a part of the youth group is great. I genuinely love it. I really do. And it's probably my favorite day of the week is Wednesday. I'm off from work and I get to go down to my church and just be a light to a lot of kids that don't have that. And that's like, I guess where you could start at the base for that, for this convo is there's a lot of kids that come to our youth that don't have parents to guide them down a right path. They have so much potential in their life of being such a good young man or young woman, and they don't have anybody giving them any sort of wisdom or any type of just mentoring or teaching at all. And so when I saw that opportunity arise, I told my pastor itself, and I didn't even ask him to be a part of it. He had asked me to be a part of it at first. And I had never thought myself of being a mentor or a teacher. And he had asked me my senior year of high school when I was just getting ready to graduate. And so I was like, I feel like I'm the same age as some of these kids. I don't know if I could even be a mentor for them. But
Hmm.
it ended up being such an amazing light and such an amazing opportunity to get involved with that. There's kids that just need to hear what it's like to do certain kids need to hear what the experience was that I went through, and they want to know how things were how it was a couple years prior to me graduating high school or college or whatever it may look like. And so I try to tell kids, I missed out, like I said earlier, I missed out on a lot of things and mainly high school, but middle school as well, because I didn't have the Lord in my life. And the Lord provides us blessings that we can't see. We don't know what those blessings are. I always view it as like one big chessboard, and the moves that he's making are just, out of my sight, out of mind, because I don't know when they're going to come. And so I know now, if I had the Lord in my life back then, how much more blessings I would receive back then, or how many more lessons I would have learned at a earlier age to where I didn't mess up later on in my life.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that I regret any of the things I did in high school or middle school. I'm just saying I wish I would have had the Lord with me, steering and guiding me down a little bit better path than what I did. And so being knowledgeable, having the knowledge I know now, and if that were to be applied back then, things would have been a lot different. And it sucks because that's probably where you mentioned it a little bit earlier, where you're starting to form your life, where you're starting to make these big jumps. You're starting to make these big decisions on what you're going to do in your life. You're going to figure out what career path you're going to take or what's going to involve you to be what you're doing in your day-to-day life. And it's crazy because at a young age in high school like that, that's kind of where it starts. You don't know if you're going to go to college or you don't know if you're going to um, continue down the path of maybe whatever it might entail, enlisting into the military, doing a trade school, doing whatever it might be, maybe taking a year off. There's so many different options that you can do. And I feel like right out of high school, it hits you like a truck because you're just not expecting it. And I
Right.
didn't have the Lord with me at that time. I really didn't. I was just starting to come to him. I got baptized in 2019 and I graduated 2019. So everything was just hitting me all at once. And
Mm.
so how grateful I was that I finally had the Lord in my life right at the last second to decide what I was going to do. But at first I was very lost and I was very confused. And I see that in these kids every single Wednesday when I go down there. Just so much confusion and so much just being lost. And so
How,
they're looking for that.
Brendan, how do you, when you say that they're lost and they're confused, how do you help them? Is there a specific thing you teach them?
Yeah.
Is it more of just your actions and showing up? Because first of all, I feel like you just showing up there.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
going to say that. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like actions definitely speak louder than words. And one of my favorite quotes is, um, preach the gospel, and
Hmm.
if necessary, use words. So like,
That's great.
and like as you get older, I'm thinking about, how life is already getting so busy and I don't even have kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, shout out to all those leaders that showed up
Yeah.
all the time, bro. Like,
Right.
dang, like why did I judge them if they called me out for messing around? Like, like
Exactly.
dang, they were actually, it's hard to just show up. But
You need patience for that for sure.
How
That's
do you,
most definitely.
one more like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
quick question, Brandon, because I relate to this. I just moved over to Summerlin a couple months ago. I was over a different part of Las Vegas.
Hmm.
In my church, I also was over specifically 12-year-olds, 12 to 13 to 14. And
Okay.
ain't gonna lie, Brandon, the Lord was for sure, testing my patience
Most definitely.
because they would shout, they would not be able to sit down and listen to the church lesson. They were
Yeah.
just hyped up on sugar. A lot of great kids, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be real. How do you have the patience to deal with maybe some kids that are rowdy, that are
Yeah.
just they're rebel?
No, most definitely. I have a great team at Cornerstone, and I'm not a youth pastor. I have a great youth pastor that's there, and he had just recently, I guess recently, come to our church within the last 2 to 3 years, and it's really good. Like you said at first, I want to tie back to this, just showing up. And I think the kids know that, like, as the older they start to get, like in that range, because I'm in the same age group pretty much. It's sixth grade all the way to 12th grade. And so
Mm.
it's a big gap there, though, too, because there's a lot of differences you see in middle school compared to high school. And we try to split those kids up to where we have small group time, to where the middle schoolers go with the middle school boys, the middle school girls go with the girls. It's everybody has their own like sections. And so that's where you can really type like that's where you can be very integral and start to like, okay, what's specifically going on with this group? What's going on with the boys? Why are they not feeling like they're good enough, or things of that nature, right?
Mm.
So the best part about being a youth leader there at like for the kids of that age is you get an opportunity to figure out what their day-to-day life is like. Like, why are they stressing out in middle school? And it's funny because we were talking about that prior to the call, talking about how stress is such an important thing, and or it's such an important role that it plays in a lot of these kids' lives. And
Right.
it's just wild to me, man, because the issues that these kids have today are so different than what I had like just maybe what 7, 8 years ago.
What
Like,
what are they, bro? What are
well, a
they?
lot of the things like you mentioned it prior, like mental health was like is so present now. Like it's such a big role that it has compared to like back when I was in middle school. I didn't really think anything about like how I thought about certain things or having anxiety or having depression. That never really crossed my mind. But kids today, I feel like it's definitely played a bigger role. And I know social media is a very, very big factor into that. A lot of kids, especially in our girls, for sure, the biggest word I could use is just insecure. A lot of these girls are just very insecure and they want to be better than the next. And it's sad because there's like so many opportunities for these girls to their potential to shoot and skyrocket through the roof, but it's just not there because they're so stunted by their insecurities. And it's sad because they have so much room to grow.
That's interesting, Brandon, because insecurities suck, weaknesses
Yeah.
suck. Unfortunately, we're everyone's born with something, right? It's either a mental health thing. It's either you're born into a really difficult situation and maybe you have parents that verbally abuse you, you have someone who beats you,
Yeah.
etc. You have,
You see it all. You really do.
yeah. But what I was trying to say was with the right mindset, with the right tools and the strategies and the right viewpoint, philosophy, etc., you can turn those insecurities, those weaknesses, disabilities into your strengths. But you need to turn to the Lord and you have to just be very aware. And I truly
Yeah.
feel like the Lord will help us not only get by, but just, grow like crazy. Not
Yeah.
only, I feel like there's a better quote there, not only get by, but just, I don't know, fly.
No,
I
that's
don't
good.
know.
No, I know what you're saying. I wanted to tie onto this really quick because I didn't really answer it. I just remembered you asked it, but the attention span of these kids is challenging, and I know you said that. And the biggest thing we do that really gets to a lot of these kids is I tell them straight up. I say, guys, when we are in our group, I say I don't have to be here. Like I could leave if I want. And whenever I say that, it's not to make them feel bad because that's not the goal, but it's me telling them I'm here to genuinely help you guys out. If you don't want my help, I don't need to come. I really don't. And when
Mm,
I tell kids that, they almost feel bad, because that's what the first thought of it is. But that's not my goal. My goal is to tell them, like, I'm trying to be that light for you guys. Like, I'm trying to tell you, I've gone through the multiple tests a week where it's like I'm stressed out of my mind and I don't know what I'm going to do. I've gone through having a crush in middle school or high school and being rejected or not being accepted by that. I've gone through feeling not good enough. I've gone through all these scenarios and things. And I want to tell you guys my experience. And I want to tell you what I did wrong, and what you could do right. And so I always try to tell them certain things that not necessarily right, but a better path to take than what I did, you know? And so the biggest thing I see with these kids now, though, is I don't personally, this is my number one rule that I tell kids, and it's such an easy thing to base everything back on. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I grew up with both of my parents being very deep alcoholics. My mom had gone to rehab for 6 months, and that was such like a, it was very just tough on me, man. It was a traumatizing experience. And being so young and seeing that, transitioning into a new school, I had a lot of things going on in my mind in middle school. But how proud I am today to say both of my parents are 15 years plus sober, and my like life is so turned around because of the Lord being in my life. And so I always try to explain that to new kids that come to our youth group. And I say, whatever situation you're in right now, like you mentioned, some kids can be abused, some kids could be, you know, things that we don't see that's going on behind the scenes. Whatever is going on in your life can be turned around, no matter how bad it is. And I'm sorry that you're going through that, but we're here to help you. Like, I want to be here every Wednesday for you to have an avenue to talk to somebody, to just tell me what you're going through, because I want to be the light that listens to you, and I want to continue to pour into you. And the one thing, the one question I can answer on this is I pour so much into these kids. And I always have people telling me, like, do you get poured into? And it is so reciprocated because I feel the knowledge from these kids of learning new things from them every time I talk to them. And
Mhm.
so that in itself is like, it's almost healing to me in knowing that. And it's like, it's just beyond a blessing to hear some of these kids' stories. And there's kids that are getting baptized at our church all the time and just turning their life to the Lord. And that in itself is so like, it's just a beautiful thing to see. And I love it every time it happens.
That's amazing. That is powerful. That's powerful, man.
Mhm.
Brandon, we just have a couple more minutes. But let's see, just to end this, wonderful, great conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, what advice or invitation would you have to anybody listening right now? Because with you, I feel like you have so far designed the type of life that you want.
Yeah.
Since you said you were, I think, 18 or just finishing up high school, that's when you kind of started to get involved with the youth
Yeah.
leadership. So I mean, from age 18, you were already designing the life that you want in terms of your spirituality area. You wanted to be that mentor. You got baptized at that age, and then you set yourself up to go to UNLV. You chose hospitality. You were taking the right classes. And
Mhm.
now, being at a young age, because I remember beforehand when we would talk a lot more, maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, whatever
Mhm.
it was, you told me that you were going to take a month or two off and then you were going to get that job. Like you had everything designed
Yeah.
out. And I just want to, with your great example of designing your life
Yeah.
at a young age, you have a girlfriend now and you've been dating for a little bit. And I'm sure you knew exactly what you wanted in your girlfriend
Yeah.
and what you want and what it takes to be a good spouse or what a good boyfriend.
Yeah. But
Uh,
no, that's still valid though. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So just to end this conversation, man, is there anything you want to say what it takes to design your life, be the best version of yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I love it because I think I told you a little bit about it before we jumped on the call, and I said, my dad told me when I was young, this is the quote that I kind of lived by before I even had the Lord in my life, and he said, 90% of your life is attitude, and the other 10% is whatever you want to make it. And I never knew what that meant. Like whenever he said that, I was like, that's such a cheesy quote. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But what he was trying to say is you have to live your life with positivity, and attitude is going to be the way that determines everything in your life. If you look at everything with a positive mindset, good things will reciprocate from that. If you look at something and say, I'm not going to be able to do that, or I don't want to do that, then you're not going to get any results from that. So I think the best way to pretty much wrap up this call is by saying, you have to live everything in a positive mindset, but your attitude determines it all. your attitude reflects so much of who you are as a person, and your attitude determines so much of like your makeup and your characteristics and everything. And so having a positive attitude and having a great mindset, that intertwined with the blessings that you get from the Lord means so much to me in my life. And that's, if anything, what I've used so far to get to where I'm at. I've had so many opportunities in my life to where one thing has led to another. I did My first job that I worked was at the Las Vegas Raiders. I worked for them a couple years prior, and I was running game entertainment, a lot live game day entertainment, like a coordinator. And it was super cool because that job led for an internship at Red Rock, and then the Red Rock internship led to where I'm at now at Durango. So I kind of just realized that when you're starting to build your career path, you have to make steps and take strides that are going to lead you into something else. I had no clue what the Raiders job was going to lead me into, but I knew that it was a good enough job to get me into something that would present me in the hospitality field.
Right.
So you got to look at everything in a positive mindset. You got to just take things on that say, I might not want to do that, but I think I should because I think it's going to help me out. And so things of that nature, if you just look at it and say, let's do it instead of, I don't know if I'm going to, it'll definitely change your life with what decisions you're trying to make.
Right. And I think that is a very powerful way to end this awesome conversation, right? That if you can have the mindset or philosophy of just being positive, that's going to create your attitude. That's going to create your results, which
Yeah.
then is going to create, your life. That
Yeah.
positive mindset, that positive philosophy can really make a big difference. And I mean, you're a perfect example of that. Little did you know that, that job would lead to this job, but all you were doing was you're probably being positive, seeing the good and just
Yeah.
having that good energy about you. You
Most
know?
definitely.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, I knew it would be an awesome conversation
Yeah.
with you, and
I love it.
for anyone out there, we appreciate you giving this a listen. And, in terms of an invitation, sit down with yourself and just really ponder, do an audit of your life and think, hey, how can I have a more positive mindset? And what would that look like? What would my habits look like if I can just have that simple, positive attitude and apply it
Yeah.
spiritually, physically, whatever you feel like those key areas of your life are,
Yeah.
during this time. But anyway, Brandon, thank you so much, man. I appreciate everyone giving
Yeah.
this a listen. I hope you
For
can be
sure.
your best self every single day. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.